Hey there, Mr. Redder here. Welcome back to another episode of Reddit Podcast Stories. Our first story we'll be reading today. I called out my brother's girlfriend for being a gold digger after she Googled the cost of our Christmas gifts. After that, am I the jerk for removing the door to my son's room indefinitely? And after that, being fired because of lack of training? Okay, let's destroy your company. Now for every thumbs up this video gets, one Karen gets a lump of coal for Christmas. Anything would be better than those socks you got me, Reddit boy. So please smash that like button and subscribe and turn on notifications for new stories from Reddit every single day. I called out my brother's girlfriend for being a gold digger after she Googled the cost of our Christmas gifts. My brother James has a girlfriend, Lindsay, who he's been dating for 7 months. He decided to bring her to Christmas at my house, stay over Christmas Eve, and leave the next day after lunch. I had met Lindsay at drinks before this, and she seemed nice. When they arrived, Lindsay walked in and complimented my decorations, large tree in the foyer, and asked how much they cost. I was a bit surprised by the question, but I just said, more than I'd like, and moved on. Throughout the evening, she asked several questions centered around money. She asked my husband how much he paid for our house, my stepdad how much money he made in his previous job, how much my watch cost. She even Googled one of our art pieces to see how much it sold for, and started talking about how crazy it was that we spent that much, which frankly was very uncomfortable. My stepdad pulled my brother aside and asked if there was a problem, but my brother just said it was normal for her to do that, but he did say he'd speak to her about it. On Christmas morning, we all gathered around to open presents, and thankfully, Lindsay hadn't said anything else, so I figured James had spoken to her about her intrusive questions. However, at lunch, we were talking about plans for January, and Lindsay proudly said she didn't know how we could afford to do anything in January as she added up the total we'd spent on gifts and then proudly proclaimed the total amount. The whole table went silent, and honestly, I was equal parts shocked and annoyed that someone could be so ignorant. I looked at Lindsay and said, "You are the world's most diligent gold digger. Seriously, would you like to be the family accountant since you're already tracking expenses?" Lindsay stuttered out an apology and tried to explain, but my stepdad just changed the conversation and we moved on. She was mercifully quiet for the rest of dinner. After they left, my brother messaged me saying that I'd really upset Lindsay and I was out of line with what I said. I argued that he had said he had talked to her and he clearly didn't. Not that someone should have needed guidance to know how crass her comments were. He's saying I owe both of them an apology, but I think Lindsay's behavior was disgraceful. My parents say Lindsay was wrong, but I probably should have said something in private, or they could have, and I shouldn't have said something in front of everyone. Am I the jerk? All of these everyone sucks heroes and you're the jerk replies are dumbfounding. Have any of you people ever had an interaction with an actual human being? In what world is asking people about how much money they make and adding up the totals of Christmas gifts normal? Not the jerk. She was being incredibly rude and obviously making everyone uncomfortable. I just don't understand why everyone here is making excuses for her. Semantics of the terminology or not. Why would you sit there and add up the total of what a family spent and then tell them about it? They know. Whether you grew up with money or not, common sense is required. Unless she's on the spectrum, which is the common excuses the "you're the jerks" and "everyone sucks here" people are giving. But come on, people here always get defensive when someone posts here and is from a wealthier background, constantly making excuses. If this was reversed, would you guys be okay with it? If she Googled how much a pair of socks or how much an old TV was and passed a comment, if she went on about how little the family spent and then declared at Christmas morning, "Oh, you guys should have loads of money in January since you spent so little during Christmas," would you all be making the same comments? I doubt it. You'd be up in arms and calling her a snob. Not the jerk, and I really don't get the people saying you are the jerk. It's so unbelievably rude to make so many comments about money. I could see maybe 1 or 2 offhanded comments, but to fixate on money so much that you tally up how much money was spent on Christmas presents and then announce it to the whole family? Don't apologize to your brother. Why should you? His girlfriend came into your house for Christmas and immediately started questioning you about money and practically appraising everything in your house. She should be apologizing to you, and your brother should be apologizing on her behalf. If someone is rude to you, you're allowed to defend yourself and shut them down, which is what you did. Maybe next time she'll learn to keep her mouth shut and not constantly talk about money. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or their brother's girlfriend? Please let us know. How much did you pay for that suit, Reddit boy? Anything over $20 and you got ripped off. Am I the jerk for removing the door to my son's room indefinitely? Yesterday, while I was making lunch, I heard a really loud sound, as if the ceiling was falling or a bookshelf had fallen. My husband, 41, male, and our daughter, 17, were out. The only other person in the house was my son, who's 16. I was pretty sure he was in his room, which is at the opposite side of the house from the kitchen. So while making my way there, I checked every room and everything seemed in order. I knocked on my son's door and called his name. No answer. I must have knocked and called 3 times before trying to open the door, which was locked. At this point, I was getting really freaked out, thinking that maybe he had tipped his wardrobe or bookshelf and it had fallen over him and he was passed out on the floor. I was basically screaming his name, but no answer. I have no idea how I did it. I just threw myself into the door and it broke. Now, clearly the door was already weak. I'm thinking termites. But yeah, it broke. My son was fine. He was freaked out about the door, but he was fine. The sound was his TV with the volume at the max, apparently, and he didn't answer me calling because he didn't want me bothering his movie. His words were, "You were screaming like a harpy and it was annoying. I was trying to watch the movie. Fix the door." I said no. I wasn't going to fix it, since to fix it, I would have to buy a new door, and doors are expensive. And as soon as his dad got home, he would remove the door entirely as it was too broken to just stay there. He got really mad, said it's his right to have a door. He deserves his privacy. I said he had a door, and while I was the one that broke it, it was a consequence of his actions. So if he wanted a door, he would have to buy it. I know he doesn't have the money for it right now. Until then, no door. He can change in the bathroom. He said, "Forget you." I said he was grounded. Am I the jerk about the door? My husband is fine with it, says only I know how scared I was, so only I can know the appropriate punishment. I'm now terrified that if anything happens where we really need to reach my son, we won't be able to. But I have calmed down since, and I'm wondering if I'm the jerk. Not the jerk. Replace the door, remove the TV from his room. You would be the jerk for not getting him a new door. He needs privacy. He doesn't need a TV. Think of different and better ways to discipline that don't remove his privacy and space. Kids typically don't need a TV. If he didn't answer because of the TV, take that away and not his door. I usually say parents are always jerks for taking away doors, but this, absolutely not the jerk. But you and your husband need to sit down and think about how to fix your son's behavior ASAP, because he's way out of line. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or her son? Please let us know. Yowza, having a son that acts like that, no wonder some folks are deciding they don't want to have kids. Being fired because of lack of training? Okay, let's destroy your company. This happened to me quite a while ago, but it's always left a sour taste in my mouth and I want to share it to alleviate the issue. I worked for a car crash rental company. When you had a crash in your own car, we were the company your insurance company would get in touch with to hire out a car to you or keep you mobile until yours was fixed or written off. I was a call handler. I received files of individuals needing a vehicle. I would make contact and book them a vehicle. This was all new to me. I did not come from this working background. The line manager was aware, and so was the floor manager. Both promised full training and support. However, this was not adequately given. The training consisted of, there's the phone, there's the files, go at it. The first couple of days were nerve-wracking, but I picked things up relatively quickly, and my line manager was happy with what I was doing. Then on day 3, I had a booking. Having not done one before, I asked for help, and I was confronted with eye rolls, sighs of disbelief, and an obvious inherent lack of motivation to help. Begrudgingly, I was taken over to a computer that was situated in the middle of the office floor. This was the only computer in this multi-million-pound company that had access to a national database of insurance information and, most importantly, personal details and driving license information for everyone in my country. I asked why we only had one computer. It turns out this database requires a license and the company can't be bothered to pay for it, so this computer was given to them via a third party who has the license. However, if they ever got found out, they would receive a heavy fine and the third party reprimanded for providing an unlicensed company their personal license. The general reason this was used was to clarify the customer's details, to make sure that they were qualified to drive and that these details were real and not fraudulent. I followed the manager's teachings exactly and rented out a vehicle. The following day, the office floor seemed off. I was getting weird looks and I could hear whispers. Knowing something was up, I did some digging. I chatted to the IT team during break, just general stuff. Then I asked about the database PC. The guy was very happy to tell me not only that they hide it when they get inspections, but also where they hide it, the extremes they sometimes go to, and he even gave me the network and computer's name. I went back to my cubicle after the discussion and cracked on. On day 5, I found out what the problem was. My rental wasn't done correctly, and instead of my line manager taking the blame due to poor training, she had thrown me under the bus. I was called in to see the floor manager. I explained to the floor manager exactly what happened, exactly how much training I had, and who gave it to me. I even showed proof with the notebook I had showing the notes I had made in it. He accepted what I said and told me to go back to work. Later on that day, when I got home, I received a call. I had been fired, regardless of it being my line manager's fault. I later found out that they were having an affair with each other, which explains why I was given the boot and not the line manager. I was livid with what happened. I followed all the instructions to the letter. It wasn't my fault that I was taught incorrectly. So I did what any self-respecting, poorly treated, and unfairly dismissed employee would do. I called the database company. I reported my previous employer for using their system without a license. I told them the network and computer name. I told them where the computer was situated. I gave them the servicing schedule, and I even told them where to find it when they hid it, due to inspections. Fast forward 6 months, and I'm happy in a new job. I haven't heard anything from or in regards to the car crash rental company. That is, until I wander into my local supermarket, and lo and behold, my line manager was there, working at a checkout. Turns out, after I left, the company had a surprise inspection from the database company. They found the computer with someone else's license on it, found records of it being hidden on planned inspections. They found usage dates and how many times it was used. The company was reported to the authorities for mishandling personal information and were fined, but it didn't stop there. A full investigation was launched by the police, and the company was fined for fraudulent activities. The owner was caught and given a suspended sentence and was also forced to pay a fine. The database owners were given compensation from the car crash rental company for the licensing breach. Some more authorities got involved too, leaving the car crash rental company in a horrible place. All in all, 6 months after I left, and following one 10-minute call, I brought the company to their knees. It was sold and absorbed into another, with most management losing their jobs. Word of warning, treat your staff right, don't have affairs, and if you need a license to use a database or software, pay for it and don't use someone else's. Am I the jerk for losing it and telling my in-laws to stop calling me mama and trying to erase my identity? I have 2 kids who are both 2 years old. I hate how everyone thinks of me as being just a mommy now. I don't get to be my own person. I'm just mommy. Husband doesn't face this. He gets gifts from everyone that have to do with his hobbies. Me? I get a bunch of mommy stuff. Tee-hee, mommy needs wine. And like matching outfits. I don't mean like one of those cutesy matching pajama sets that the nurses and horse girls wear in their staged Christmas Instapics. I mean like people actually think I'm going to go out in public wearing some cutesy matching outfits with my toddlers, as though I think they're mini versions of myself, or dolls. From the time we got to the in-laws, it was mama this and mama that. At some point, my sister-in-law said it, and I said, "You know my name is Carmen, right?" She just looked at me funny and said, "Of course, silly." I said, "So why do you keep calling me mama? You aren't going around calling my husband papa." Sister-in-law just looked at me like I had 2 heads and was like, okay. This went on all over Christmas. "Here you go, mama. Want another slice, mama?" At that point, I was just like, do you guys mind calling me by my name instead of calling me mama? The same sister-in-law from earlier did the whole golly gee doe-eyed thing and said, "But you're such a good mama." I said that I'm not just a mom. I gestured to the things that husband got from them for Christmas and said, "Why didn't you guys get him anything that says papa? Everything you gave me is somehow related to me being a mom. Why does he get to be his own person?" Mother-in-law grabbed my hand and squeezed it and said that she was sorry that she made me feel like this. She was just so excited about being a grandma, and she never really thought of things like that. I was feeling a little better until sister-in-laws 2 and 3 started going after me. One of them did that whole, "Are you okay? Do you need to talk to someone? You sound so angry. It isn't healthy," faux concern thing that's meant to shame you for having any emotional response. The other one was angry and saying that, "Is being a mom somehow beneath you? And do you think you're better than the rest of us?" and all that. When we finally left, he asked me why I'd kept it in for so long, and I said that I haven't. No one listened to me before. I've said these things plenty of times. I've always asked them to call me by my name and not some disgusting nickname that boils me down to giving birth. He nodded, but said that I had put a big show on this weekend and that I needed to apologize for the outburst at some point. I said sure, as soon as sister-in-laws apologized to me for dehumanizing me for years. We're at a stalemate. Am I the jerk? No. Your sister-in-laws owe you an apology, and you owe them nothing, even after. I'm so petty, I'd start calling them sister-in-law all the time and only getting them sister-in-law stuff. Not the jerk. Once again, this is a case of family members needing to be confronted about their behavior because politely asking them to stop didn't work. And then it's all, why didn't you say something? Your answer to your husband is exactly correct. If you need to apologize for your outburst, then they need to apologize for their failure to listen to you until you reached your breaking point and had an outburst. Not the jerk. Your mother-in-law reacted appropriately in my opinion, saying she didn't realize and had no ill intent, which I believe. Your point is well made, and your sister-in-laws just seem like people who can't take feedback. Many of my female friends who had kids have expressed the same frustration as you. You're right to speak up. Everyone sucks here. I don't know, I feel like you made this into a way bigger deal than it was, and I get why they think you don't like being a mom or you think it's beneath you. Who cares what they call you? You literally are a mom, and a lot of times when you're around kids, others will say things like, here, give this to mama, or take this to mama. They're not going to be constantly saying your real name around your kid. Your kid knows you as mama. There are so many horrible things going around the world right now, and it's crazy to see petty little things like this that don't even matter. Was it really worth ruining your relationship with your family? Do you even care about your husband's relationship with his own family? Disgusting nickname. Oh, please. You're the jerk. Get over yourself. Is being a mom somehow beneath you? I mean, kind of. Priorities. Being myself, parenting, partnering, other adult duties. Well, unpopular opinion, but I think you're the jerk, at least a little bit. Some moms call each other mama as a term of endearment. You have every right to not like it. Every right to directly tell them that you hate being called that, so please stop. However, I'm almost positive that nobody was trying to erase your identity. If you're feeling that way, maybe that's something that you are struggling with yourself. It's hard being a mom. I should add that the whole mama thing really depends on where you live. I'm in the South where it's common practice, but depending on where you live, I guess it could just have a different connotation. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or her in-laws? Please let us know. Hey Reddit boy, I think I'm gonna start calling you Papa Reddit. Not one, but two wild Karens teaming up on me. So for a little context, I went out of town to help my grandmother who wasn't doing too well health-wise. So she asked me to run to the store to grab a few things for her. When I got to the store, I started shopping like any other customer. To avoid being bothered while I'm in the store, I always wear those big over-the-ear headphones that clearly say, I'm not gonna hear anything you say. Well, I continue shopping, and I pause my music to listen to an audio message in my group chat, when all of a sudden I hear someone say, "Excuse me." I ignored it because I didn't think it had anything to do with me. But then I hear, "Excuse me," followed by fingers snapping, but even louder, and the voice sounded like nails on a chalkboard. Next thing I know, I see this old Karen rush in front of me and snap her fingers in my face. At this point, I'm now visibly annoyed, so I take my headphones off and just stare at her. She goes on to say, "Geez, are you deaf?" And I reply, "No, but clearly I don't want to be bothered." She goes on to say, "Wow, you all rude. Is that any way to speak to a customer?" And I look at her confused. But then it dawns on me that I'm currently wearing a red shirt, which is the uniform of the employees at this store. Once I realized that she thought I was an employee, I immediately attempted to clear it up by saying, "Sorry ma'am, but," and before I can finish, this Karen begins to lay into me, calling me everything under the sun except my name. At this point, she threatens to get a manager to get me fired. But wouldn't you know it, a manager just so happened to be coming down the aisle to check the disturbance. When the manager got there, she began to ask what was going on, and before I knew it, Karen started telling the manager how I had verbally assaulted her and was calling her all types of inappropriate names, and finally she finished by saying, "I want this employee fired." Now, under normal circumstances, you would think that the manager would clear up the confusion about my employment with the company, or lack thereof. But boy, oh boy, I could not have been more wrong. The manager then takes the side of Karen and begins to tell me off about how I'm not honoring the employee code of conduct. At this point, I'm livid, because not only did I get verbally assaulted by one Karen, now I'm getting my ear chewed off by another Karen, and a manager no less. Now, I can usually keep my cool in rough situations, but this one had officially pushed me over the edge. So after the manager finishes telling me what's what, she looked at me and said, "Do you have anything to say for yourself?" I looked at the first Karen, then looked at the second one, and asked the manager, "Are you new here?" The manager says, "No, I've been here for 8 years." I then proceeded to ask, "Have I ever interviewed with you?" She then said, "No, but I don't." And before she could finish her sentence, her face turned bright red as she realized that I didn't have a name tag on or any of the employee equipment. This is when I yelled to both of them, "I don't work here." Both the Karen and the manager looked absolutely mortified. I told them to get out of my way as I made my way to the register. As I get to the register, I get approached by another manager of the store, and at this point I'm thinking to myself, "You have got to be kidding me." But to my surprise, the manager explained that she somewhat heard the conversation and did not want me to leave the store with a bad taste in my mouth. So to make up for the nonsense that I had just endured, this manager, who we will call Maria, comped my entire transaction, which was only about $50. She assured me that she would personally take care of the manager Karen that was yelling at me. I don't know what happened to both of them, but I do know that my grandma got what she needed free of charge. Am I the jerk for reminding my stepmother about how she really met my father? I, 21 male, was at my father's house for Christmas this year. Most of the paternal family was there, but the only people relevant to this story are my dad, who's 49, his wife, Sasha, who's 39, and my sister Jasmine, who's 18, and her boyfriend, Mike, who's 21. Jasmine is my only full sister, and we're extremely close. She's currently 3 months pregnant, which obviously isn't ideal since she's only 18, but I'm going to support her regardless. I do not like her boyfriend, but he's good to her and able to provide for her and the baby. Sasha has always hated Jasmine. No one has any idea why, and my dad prefers to ignore it. After the Christmas dinner, Jasmine, Mike, my dad, Sasha, and I were clearly up when Jasmine suddenly felt nauseous and went to go sit down. Mike went with her. This is when Sasha decided to begin talking badly about her for being a pregnant teen and for being unmarried. She then started saying that she thinks that Jasmine got pregnant on purpose because Mike's family is wealthy, which doesn't make any sense since our family is well off too. Sasha is known for saying horrible things to get a reaction, so I was ignoring her. So was my dad, until she asked me how I felt about my younger sister having a kid with someone older than me, literally only 4 months older than me. At this point, I was done, so I stopped washing the dishes and I told her to shut her mouth because she broke up my parents' marriage. That's when my father finally decided to get involved, but I went on and reminded Sasha of the fact that when Jasmine was little, she was in the hospital a lot, and she, Sasha, was one of the nurses that cared for her on the ward, and she began an affair with my father. I also decided to remind her of how her eldest child, my half-sister, was born 8 months after she married my dad. The situation devolved into shouting, and turns out a lot of my paternal family didn't know the truth about how my dad and Sasha met. I ended up leaving, and so did Jasmine and Mike, and a few other people. Now, my dad is demanding that I apologize to his wife for embarrassing her and making her look bad in front of the whole family. Now, I want an unbiased view on whether or not I am the jerk for rising to my stepmother's bait, her insults to Jasmine, and going lower by exposing her. Am I the jerk? Not the jerk. She has no room to talk about your sister being a pregnant teen when she's a homewrecker. I bring the same stuff up to my father's wife. I'll never refer to her as stepmother since she's only 2 years older than me when she starts pointing out flaws in others. Sometimes you just have to put them in their place and never apologize for telling the truth. Am I the jerk for telling my brother-in-law he has a good life because he's living off of my sister? My family's Vietnamese, and our parents were typical Viet parents. They immigrated to the US, and the entire time we were growing up, they emphasized the importance of education. They pushed us hard, and extracurricular activities that didn't boost our chances of getting into college were not allowed. I hated seeing my friends join the cheerleading squad while I had to be in band. My friends were able to go to school dances while I had to go to tutoring. I resented my parents for many years and told them so. Their answer was always the same: hate us all you want now, but thank us later. I'm now a surgeon, and all my siblings have high-paying careers. The siblings with the lowest salary makes almost $160,000 a year as a supervising pharmacist in a hospital. We're all living very well and are very happy with our lives. Now that I'm a mother, I can admit that my parents were right. My sister, an attorney, is married to Bill. He's not Asian and works as a chef at a restaurant. Unlike movies or cooking shows, he's only making about $50,000 a year, while his wife is pulling in about $500,000 as a partner in her firm. Over Christmas, we were gathered at my parents' house, and I was asked by my niece, my brother's daughter, about my career. Her parents are pushing her into the medical field, and she wanted to know what it takes. During our conversation, she said she wants to be a teacher and not a doctor. She told me she feels pressured into studying too much and can't enjoy life like her friends can. I pointed out that I went through the exact same thing, and teaching won't give her the life she's accustomed to. I said if she's a doctor, she can always teach on the side. I told her about a colleague who's also a physician and volunteers to teach in his old high school. Brother-in-law overheard us and chimed in about how she should follow her dream of teaching because money does not equal happiness. He pointed out that he makes as much as a teacher and lives a great life. I didn't appreciate his nosiness, so I replied that he has a great life because my sister makes 10 times his salary and bought him his brand new $125,000 electric car for Christmas. I turned to my niece and told her unless she wants to live off of someone else, she needs to make her own money. Brother-in-law got his feelings hurt and went to complain to my sister. She told me I was wrong to say that to brother-in-law and that I should apologize. I'm refusing since I only stated the truth, but now they're refusing to come to my house for Viet New Year. I'm hosting the entire family, unless I apologize. Wow, you're the jerk. Bill heard his niece getting some very one-sided advice. He chimed in with his perspective, which he is just as much entitled to as you are to yours, and which is just as valuable to your niece as yours is. That's not nosiness, that's looking out for his niece, exactly the same thing you were doing. Your ad hominem attack was completely uncalled for, and it's sad that with all your education, you haven't yet learned that money doesn't buy happiness. If it did, there wouldn't be so many miserable rich people. I'm glad you're satisfied with your life, truly, but as a single woman working for a nonprofit at nonprofit wages, I assure you there are many different ways to achieve a good life. She didn't lie, and brother-in-law was being nosy. His wife is providing the good life for him, so yeah, he wasn't looking out for his niece. This isn't, was I technically truthful? This is, am I the jerk? And while OP may have been truthful, as far as they are aware, they were absolutely a jerk. OP's definition of the good life, and yours too apparently, is based on extremely narrow parameters, which is fine. If it works for you, then it works for you. But just because that's your definition doesn't mean it's the only definition. It's crazy to assume that he wasn't looking out for his niece just because his advice differs from yours. And even using your definition, I would absolutely not encourage anyone to go into the medical profession right now. Higher education costs are up, potential salaries are down, job satisfaction is down as doctors spend more and more of their time complying with insurance and government regulations and less time working with patients. The math is very different than it was a mere 10 years ago. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or her brother-in-law? Please let us know. Boyfriend gets mad and destroys my Christmas ornament. So my boyfriend hates Christmas. He doesn't like giving or receiving gifts or any of the festive traditions. We've been together for 4 years and he knows I love Christmas, so he plays along. Well, last night we agreed we'd take the tree down next week, but when we came downstairs today, he started taking everything down. His reasoning being, Christmas is over and the tree takes up space. Now here's the thing. A lot of the ornaments we have are like family heirlooms. Most of them are older or the same age as me, 24, or were handmade by my deceased grandmother. My boyfriend started just tossing the ornaments on the table, which started stressing me out. I was telling him to stop, to calm down, or either move, and I'll put everything away. He was getting angry and started yelling at me because I'm trying to keep the tree up. Well, you probably guessed it. He threw an ornament and it broke. It was one of my grandmother's handmade ones. I took one look and just broke down, like ugly crying. He started getting more mad, telling me I'm being childish and stupid for getting upset about the tree. I feel like I'm the jerk because I started yelling at him to step away from the tree because he was going to break more ornaments. And when he wouldn't and kept calling me childish, I kept yelling at him and telling him that he's being a jerk. After he put everything away, he tried to talk to me, still telling me that I was being childish and stupid about the tree and ornaments. I get how it might be childish, but I don't have memories of my grandmother. But I have a picture, and growing up, whenever I was sad, I would hug and talk to her. I only have a small amount of jewelry or handmade ornaments or trinkets from her that are extremely special to me. So I don't know if I'm just being stupid and blew things up. Edit. The ornament is fixable. It was a handmade clay wreath, and luckily only part of the bow and the part you hang on the tree broke off, which I can fix. To all those showing concern, my boyfriend is never like this. He's always shown me, my belongings, and my family respect. He has no Christmas bad experiences from the past, and despite not liking Christmas, he has always put an effort into doing my Christmas traditions. That's partly why I was so confused on if I was the jerk, because this was so out of the normal for my relationship. He went upstairs for an hour, and when he came back, he apologized. He said he was getting stressed and frustrated about me yelling, and he wasn't being as careful as he should have because of it. He said it was really an accident and that he felt bad about breaking the ornament. I'm planning on having a discussion with him, as the way he handled the situation wasn't right, and we'll see how things go. Edit 2. Oh boy, so this is getting a lot of attention, which is why I'm adding a second edit. I had a headache and took a nap for a few hours. When I came back downstairs, my boyfriend sat with me and gave me a real apology. He said he handled the situation completely wrong and that it was entirely his fault, and that he never should have talked to me that way. He said he felt absolutely horrible about breaking the ornament, and he should have treated them better and stopped as soon as he saw me crying. He hasn't been feeling well the past couple of days and has been exhausted after spending the week with our family. On top of which we found out we have to get tested to see if we might be sick. He thinks he's just irritable because of that, which he said he knows isn't an excuse. I know many of you reached out and are worried about my safety, and I really appreciate that. My boyfriend has never mocked or made fun of my interests or traditions. He's always happy to participate and do things with me. He's always cared for my happiness and well-being and has always been supportive. He's never made me feel unsafe and has always settled any arguments by talking and communicating. This outburst was so out of the ordinary, which is why I was so confused. I think you need to throw out the boyfriend rather than the tree. There is just no excuse for this behavior. Absolutely none. So don't let him gaslight you into thinking you are somehow to blame here. For the sake of your Christmas spirit, your long-term happiness, and the safety of your precious ornaments, get out now. I'm not saying this lightly, but a man who can be so callous with things you hold dear isn't someone you should want in your life. Not the jerk. Support our channel by joining as a member today, and we'll give you a shout out in our next video. Or come watch this video next. You won't believe what Karen does in that one.